we're going to talk about subtracting whole numbers. And so this says, suppose you have $9, you spend $2 for parking, and then you have $7 left. There are two different ways that you can look at these numbers. First of all, it could be as an addition problem. So, let me find my breaking stuff here. $2 plus the $7 you have left equals the $9 that you started with. So an addition problem. The 2 you spent, the 2 you have left equals the 9 that you started with. Or you could look at it as a subtraction problem. I have $9, or I had $9, I spent 2 in parking, and now I am left with the $7 that remain after I spent the $2. So you can write these problems in either addition or subtraction with the same exact numbers in both problems. All right, before I do that, let me show you a couple of other examples here. I'm going to kind of draw a divider here, and I want you to see that you could write 8 minus 3 and get 5. If I write the same exact numbers in the same order, I could put 8 equals 3 plus 5. Okay, so I'm not changing the order of the numbers, I'm just changing the signs that go between them. So another example could be 18 minus 13 equals 5. If I rewrite all of the same numbers, I could write 18 equals 3 plus 5. Okay, so I want you to see that the same numbers can be written to an addition or subtraction. It's easiest if you don't move the numbers around. I realize that here I did, but I did so just to kind of make the statement make sense when I was talking to you about how much I have, how much I spent, and so on. So that's why I did that. But it's easier just to leave them be. So here are 3 vocabulary terms that I want you to be familiar with. I'm going to write these out so you can see where they fall in an actual problem example. So here's our first vocabulary, here's our second vocabulary term, and I ran out of colors, but the difference is that answer right there. So that's where you can identify each of these terms or vocabulary words in an actual problem. All right, the next thing that we're going to work on is subtracting with no regrouping. Regrouping means without borrowing, okay? Regrouping is borrowing, so in this problem we're not going to have to borrow. So let's look at a problem. 53 minus 21. When we are subtracting, we start on the far right side and we work our way left, and we are looking at 3, okay? So 3 items, and we want to take away 1 of them. So if I take away 1, I have 2 left. So 3 minus 1 is where I get 2. I realize now that that looks like a smiley face over there, but I did not intend for it to. All right, so now we're moving on to that second column, and I have 5. I need to take away 2 of them. I was supposed to change colors, sorry. There's take away 2 of them. I have 3 left, and so this is where my 32, my 32, that is my answer, came from. Okay. All right, let's try another one. I have 3, 8, 5, minus 1, 6, 5. This is still in that no regrouping category, so no borrowing. So if I have 5 take away 5, I get 0. I have 8 minus 6 gives me 2. And 3 minus 1 gives me 2. So 220, or 220, is my answer for this one. Notice that I started on the far right and got an answer, and moved to the middle and got the 2 as the answer, and then worked my way left to that last column and found another 2 as my answer. So you're just going to work in the columns and keep your answers right underneath each of your columns perfectly set up, okay? All right, so you can check your subtraction by flipping it over and adding the smaller number and the answer. So let me show you what this looks like. If I have 8, 5 minus 1, 6, 5, I get an answer of 2, 2, 0, right? We know that because I did that problem somewhere, I'm pretty sure. Right there, sorry, the problem before that. So the 3, 8, 5 minus the 1, 6, 5, I got 2, 2, 0. If I'm checking to make sure that that's right, I'm going to take these 2 guys right here. I'm going to take my answer, 2, 2, 0. I'm going to add it to the smaller number that's in the subtraction problem, and I'm going to add these together, and I get 5, 8, and 3. And if 5, 8, and 3 matches the other number that was involved in the problem that you started with, then you have a correct answer. So let's try another one. Let's say that I have 9, 4, 3, 7, and I'm going to subtract 2, 1, 0. I do my subtraction and I find 7, 2, 2, 9. Okay, which is actually 9,227. And if I wanted to check my work, I would take the 9227, I would add it to the 210, I would add and get this, and these two in the diagonal match, so yes, I did it correct. I just checked my work, okay? And remember, all of my lecture notes are in the online Moodle class, and so you at any time can click on a folder and have my notes to look through as I'm teaching you on these videos, and you can look through them. All right, so let's do a couple of examples of regrouping, and then we will be done with this lesson. So regrouping again means that you are going to borrow. So I have 57 minus 19, and I immediately notice in this first column, because remember I start on the far right, I have 7 of something, I can't take away 9. I think that's 7, yeah. So let's say I have 7 and I didn't take away 9, so there's take away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm missing 2 somethings to even mark out, so this isn't going to work for me. And I know that because the top number, the top number in this is smaller than the bottom number, or the denominator, or it's not a denominator, but the bottom number. Addition fractions too much. So what I need to do, the answer to this is to go next door and to borrow. And if I take something away from 5, it becomes 4. And notice that this is the tens column. So when I borrow something from the tens column and bring it over to the ones column, because this is the ones column, when I do that, I end up with 10 little pieces. And notice that I already had 7 to start with, so I have 10 plus 7 now. So this whole part over here became 17. So now I have 17 minus 9 for the ones column. And 17 minus 9 gives me 8. And so here's my 8 right there. Ooh, I meant to get an arrow, not that. All right, so now that I got that out of the way, we move over to the tens column, and I have 4 minus 1. Remember 1, 2, 3, 4. If I mark out one of them, because that's what I'm using, I have 3 left, and so this is where my 3 came in. So 38 is going to be my answer to this problem. All right, let's try 6, 3, 5 minus 5, 4, 6. The first column, I have 5 things. I need to take 6 away from it, and that's not going to work. So we go next door and borrow, and that makes it a 2. Remember, when I bring things from the tens over to the ones column, I end up with 10 little pieces. And this 5 right here, ooh, my marker's not working, is from where I already had over here. So 10 that I brought over, the 5 that I already had, I now have 15. So all that's gone, that mess, and I only have 15. So 15 minus the 6 that's right here in this column. And when I do that, I get 9. Nope, sorry. Yeah, 9. Goodness, thought I was doing the wrong problem for a second. All right, so I move next door. I look at that middle column, and I have 2, and I need to take 4 away from it. Yeah, I can't take 4 from 2, so this is not going to work. So again, I'm going to have to go next door, and I'm going to have to borrow, making that 6 a 5, and bring 10 little ones next door. So 10 and the 2 I already have gives me 12. So now I'm doing 12 minus 4, which is going to give me 8. And so here's my 8. In the last column, all I have left is 5 minus 5, which is going to be 0. So my final answer for this one's going to be 89. All right, we're going to do one last example, and it's going to be regrouping when you have zeros involved. And these get kind of tricky for some students, so I want to make sure that we show this or work this out. So if I have 9,000 and I'm subtracting 6,999. Remember, we are just going to focus one column at a time. If I have nothing, I cannot take 9 away from it. So I go next door to borrow. And I can't borrow anything because that one is nothing. So I keep continuing, moving along until I can find something I can borrow from. This guy is also 0, so I'm going to go way over here, and I'm finally at the 9s. If I borrow from the 9s, it becomes an 8. When I bring it over here next door, it becomes 10. But I don't need to leave it there because I need stuff way over here. So I'm going to borrow from here, make it 9, and when I bring it next door here, it now becomes 10. Remember, each time you give it to the next column to the right, it becomes a 10. I need to borrow from here and make this a 9 because I took one away. And remember, when I bring it to the right, it becomes 10. So now I have 10, 9, 9, and 8. These are the numbers I have in my top row. So I have 10 minus 9, which gives me 1. In here, I have 9 minus 9, which gives me 0. Also here, I have 9 minus 9, which also gives me 0. And in the last column, I have 8 minus 6, which is going to give me 2. So 2001 is going to be my final answer. So remember, when you have to borrow, you're looking for something that has anything to give. And if it's all zeros, you just keep moving next door until you find something to borrow. The common mistake for this one is a lot of students knew that starting with 9,000, that they knew they were going to have to borrow from the 9. But instead of making this a 10, they made this a 10. And I don't know how they do it, but then they end up going back over here, making this a 7 to make this one a 10. And then making this a 6 to make this one a 10. And so the process is so far off. So just be careful. Remember that it's all one step and you have to borrow from each next door. And if there's not anything, then you had to borrow for it before you get to bring it over to the following right column. Remember that you can print my lecture notes that are found in Moodle to correspond with the lecture video that I just did, so you can see the exact problems that I just went over, and contact your instructor if you have any further questions.